back, Dan. Addressing the state of wrestling. Wow, some other addresses being given tonight that nobody's gonna watch. Um, dare we say it? We are at crazy times, and I know we said this before that WWE's been hot. A title being dropped at a house show that we were at last night. Well, not a house show, at Raw on Netflix. Dropped last night that we'll get to, and then
Yeah.
the ultimate swerve.
I mean,
The
wait, you mean last night or this weekend?
this weekend, the Togen 2.0.
I mean, yeah, so trivia to start today. What hasn't happened in 7,776 days?
Hulk Hogan saying the N word.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
Nope.
no.
Okay.
Moving right along. No, it has been that many days since John Cena wrestled as a heel.
Oh, where was it?
I stole that from someone's post, so I hope
Was
it's
it
right. I
Dave
didn't fact check it.
LaGreca? Yeah, Dave.
I mean, I don't know that it was Dave that put it. I just saw somebody who put it. But I think it was tagged to Busted Open.
Yeah.
It's like 21 years, 3 months, and X amount of days. It's like crazy, right?
And Dave was sitting there crying in his pink robe saying he only had 10 more months to the end of his career, and he chose to do it now. But yes, we will get to that after our discussion of the Elimination Chamber, because as some other podcasts have discussed, it's been a hell of a time. We took some time to go over everything from the chamber, and then of course we had Raw in our city with Netflix last night, so we went to get in on that, and that was a hell of a time as well. So, first off, what did you think about the card length of the chamber?
I mean, I think it was fine. I think in general, like it kind of fit to what they were doing. I mean, it was only 4 matches. But
Yeah, that's
that,
what I mean.
you know, that's the thing when you have, matches that are going to dictate a lot of time, even if they're quick, right? Like we've talked about it. Like the chamber is going to be it's 20 to 25 minutes before you have the fourth person out of their chamber. Typically, like
Yeah,
they didn't say 5 minutes, but it ran about 5 minutes, right? Like, so you have 20 minutes right there to get through all four coming out of their chamber, and it's not going to end 3 minutes after the last person comes out. So you're looking at 30 to 45 minutes minimum, probably closer to 45 minutes minimum for a chamber match. So you've got an hour and a half with 2 matches right there. And then another, I guess it would have been about an hour and a half for the other matches, right? I mean, what was the final show time? I actually didn't even. I can look right now.
For some reason, I thought was going to be
well,
like five matches, but I probably.
Well, actually, so I have to correct something. The women's chamber match was 29 minutes and 15 seconds, bell to bell. The men's was 32:40, bell to bell. So that
chamber match?
I mean, yeah. The 30-minute matches were, I mean, they were both roughly 30 minutes, right? So the actual wrestling was 29, 32, 11, and 27. So only an hour and 40 minutes of wrestling. Was it over? I don't even know. How long did it take? It started at 7, right? Was it over by 9:30? I guess it was.
No. No, that don't seem right.
Well, then you had the then you had the Rock and Punk and Cena. So That
And
was another
how
20
long
minutes,
was Kevin's match? Does it say?
27 minutes, 35 seconds. It had about an hour and 40 minutes of match time, actual match time, not counting obviously in between and promos and video packages. Plus, plus Cody, John, and The Rock and Travis Scott was at least 20, 25 minutes, probably. Right? Because the Chamber wins, that ends at 32 minutes, 40 seconds. They lift the Chamber. John celebrates for a little bit. You get a Cody entrance. Cody and John do a couple little things. Then you get a Rock entrance with Travis. That takes about 8 minutes for Rock to get to the ring.
Yeah. Well, and
Right.
Travis
And then,
Scott strolling behind him.
right. So that took about 8 to 10 minutes from the minute his music hit to when they were actually in the ring. They talk for a little bit. Cody does his thing, gives The Rock the middle finger.
The daps up Cena.
Japs though, yeah, John. That actually probably was a 25-minute segment too.
Well, and he
Minimum.
took a beating afterwards, right? So
yeah, 210, let's say 210, 215 of it was probably 2 hour and 45-minute show maybe with all the in between promos and stuff.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was good, right? Like, we obviously saw the outcome of who Bianca will be facing at WrestleMania last night, as we know right now. But I
Yeah.
thought that match was pretty good. It was good to see Roxanne Perez in there.
Yeah.
Big spot for her. Big spot for her to get called up right away and to be in the chamber match, right? So that means they obviously trust her. And to be honest, she seemed a lot faster than the other women within that chamber match. She seemed like she was very confident in what she can do, her timing, her stack of moves. Like, she didn't hesitate at anything, right? Like, sometimes when you
No.
see the women do these war game type matches or like these cage and chamber type matches, like, it's the feedback that we always see on Naya was that she just like looks lost in place, right? Like, she just like it's too big of an attraction for her. So it's good to see it's not like that for Roxanne. Roxanne was just balls to the wall for the moment she got out of her pod and into the chamber, which is good to see because she can really go. And I've been talking about her for years, so very proud of her for that. Congratulations, Roxanne, on that. Bailey looked good. It was good to see Alexa Bliss back and healthy. And I mean, I gotta continue to say this. Liv is reaching new levels anytime she goes and wrestles. She's getting better and better every time she's stepping in the ring. Like, she's just it's wild to see. So that's good to see.
Yeah.
Then Nia Jax, Candice LeRae versus Tiffy Time and Trish. Obviously, Trish wasn't going to get beat in Toronto, right? So that wasn't
No.
going to happen. I thought that was a good segue match. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Let's talk about that one for a while. Was it as violent as you thought it was going to get?
No.
Because
I
there
don't.
wasn't
I actually,
blood?
I probably, not necessarily, but maybe that's a part of it. I probably have a very unpopular take on this match. I didn't think this match was honestly all that great. I think it didn't live up to expectations of what they can do. I think I kind of talked about this last time that I was a little worried that the issue here is can we get what they've done in the past in a WWE world? And I was worried that we can't. And in the end, I don't think we got it. I think we got something close, but I don't think we got much more. I mean, when I watched it, and watched clips of it back, the only thing they did that we don't typically see as much was one or two chair spots, right? Like we don't typically see, a suplex type drop jackhammer type move onto a chair,
Yeah,
which we saw in this match. WWE
multiple
doesn't
times,
usually
right?
do that.
Multiple times.
And we don't typically see the barbed wire wrapped chairs in WWE. And we got a suplex onto it and a couple of hits with it. The only other thing I can think of that they did that we don't typically get was throwing the chair at another guy's head. We
Yeah,
don't typically get that. They didn't do head shots, but they did throw a chair at each other's heads. But outside of that, I don't think we saw anything all that crazy that we haven't seen before or that. So my thing was is that, and maybe I'm just being too picky about it, but this was my concern. Can we get the kind of unsanctioned match that those two are capable of, and will the WWE let them go? And I get the sense that they were probably given a relatively long leash, but not as long as they would have liked for what they know they could do. So for that, I mean, it's still a good match. I'm not. I guess I shouldn't have said like it wasn't a great match. Like it just, I just maybe expected too much. Maybe that's my fault. You know.
no, I mean, for where they are in their part, if I could talk today, for where they are in this time in their career, I think the match was perfect. To be honest, I don't think they could go back and do what they did at PWG or Ring of Honor when they were
Right.
giving pile drivers from the top of ladders through other ladders and eventually falling through a table. Right? I didn't I didn't expect that from this, right? If anything, I thought, well, you were sitting right next to me. I was calling for a table the whole entire time, and we only got
Yeah.
one
You didn't get
table
that.
spot.
Yeah.
Well, we got the one when he pushed him off the top rope, right? And he like
Oh,
flipped over the
but you
pole.
never got you never got the ladder you wanted.
Yeah, not the ladder through the table. No, yeah. So I mean, um, I wanted to see some like old school PWG stuff from them or some old school Ring of Honor indie stuff. But then I was thinking about it on the ride home, and it's like, if we still want KO and Sammy to be around at this time in their career, I don't think they could do it, right? Like, because those matches take time off your career. And with the contracts those guys supposedly like signed, like why would you risk it, right? Like
Yeah.
like the company's the hottest it's ever been. So even if you're not selling Birch right now as the top number one person, people are still buying your stuff because it's on Netflix, and because it's on Netflix, it's doubled the global population. I would probably say of like who's viewing it, and people will just buy anything that they look cool, right? Because that's what people do on
Hmm.
online shopping. Like, oh, this looks cool. I'll wear this. Let me buy this, and they might not know who it is until they go back and watch it, right? So I don't know, man. It is it's something. It is something. It's I think I had expectations for it being a lot, but then I probably oversold it to myself rather than what they can do now in this time in their career, right? But I still
Yeah,
thought it was good.
that's kind of what I think too.
Yeah, I still think it was good. I still think they gave us everything that they had. Um, yeah, they're definitely going to need some time off because they gave each other a pounding, right? Like they were just beating the crap out of each other. I'm very surprised we got a barbed wire chair. Um, I really wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a ladder or a straight out power power bomb through a table before a chair with barbed wire on it. But that was cool. And as soon as that got pulled, they started doing the ECW chants. So Toronto fans were loving that. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, solid card. obviously everybody's gonna remember this card for what happened after the men's chamber match. Um, we got some good moments in that match when Drew got eliminated and it looked like he was going to start throwing a tantrum again. That's been my favorite part to watch, is just watching Drew get so pissed off. I love that. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of his heel type character being so good now. I like watching when he gets screwed over, but it fits perfectly. We got Cena and Punk telling each other "I miss you" when they got in the ring, right? Um,
Yeah.
like that was just good to see, going back to the glorious days of both of those guys. Seth Rollins is this generation Shawn Michaels. He doesn't have to win at all, and it's still good. Um, what did you think about that stomp to Punk on the outside? Was that perfectly timed? Where like he caught his
Yeah,
face right on right on like the drop down right between like the actual mat and the outside barricade floor.
he's really good at that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and obviously it takes two, but like he's very good at how that looks all the time.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's wild. It is wild, man. It's yeah, because it happened so quick, right? Like Punk was like leaning outside, and then all of a sudden, before you saw it, boom. Um, he was flat out cold, right? Flat
Yeah.
out cold. So yeah, it's. I'm just trying to think. As much as I don't like Logan Paul, I thought he did a great job in this as well. Um, perfect, perfect. Opportunity for him to show that like he's an athlete that they can count on if he decides to stay with WWE for years to come, right? Because
Yeah.
he's very good at copying what other people do and doing it to their extent or their standard. And it definitely showed in the chamber. I obviously can't stand him as a person, but I thought what he brought to the chamber match was pretty good. Uh, Damian Priest, it's good to see him get pushed into the spotlight again. I think this is good that he's kind of like hovering around. What would you say, that like second tier guy on in WWE now, right? You probably got Punk,
Yeah.
Cena, Seth, Roman, Jay, Jacob as like the top, right? Do you think I forgot anybody?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's probably about right.
And then and then like everybody else below, right? But it's just because I voiced this concern to you on a prior podcast before that with Damien not having the title, WWE has had a bad history of this, right? Like if a guy drops the title and they're not sure what they're gonna do with him, he either goes into hiding or like he's jobbing out the next day, right? So it's good to see he's kind of like still like, we obviously know he's not getting a shot at the title anytime soon, right? Like
Right.
it's not happening. But like it's just good to see his character be able to just grow in this role of like he's constantly trying to get these opportunities, because then down the line if somebody gets hurt, you don't know what's going to be needed, so it works out pretty well. um but yeah, I mean, it's, and then of course afterwards, afterwards, damn, the experience that broke the hearts of millions and millions around the world. The guy
Yeah.
who just did Make a Wish signings the day of and the day before, the day that broke the heart of my 63-year-old father, who's been watching wrestling since my first birthday when he dubbed over my birthday tape to watch WrestleMania, which we still have in the basement. So we don't have any footage from our first birthday. No big deal. I talk about it in therapy a lot. So it's just wild, Dan. Like, we didn't think this day was ever gonna come, right? Like, I brought it up to you like once during the week. I think we were talking about it, but I just brought it up as like a shot in the dark. I didn't think it was like it had any likelihood of what was gonna go in or what was gonna go on. I mean, I just like, well, like I'm still speechless, right? Like,
It was just done so perfectly.
yes,
And
that's the best way to say it.
it was, even though we knew there was always a chance, right? We wondered, we speculated. I don't know that we ever really thought it was going to happen.
Right, that's what I said.
thought,
Right.
and I was convinced that Punk was going to win, and they definitely went the length to make everyone think that, and which is part of this whole thing being perfect. And then, like, so then The Rock comes out, and I remember I'm talking to you and I'm saying, is Cody wearing all black because he's about to turn, right? Like, because we knew somebody had to turn. This was the conversation. We were like, how are they really going to do this? Like, babyface versus babyface at WrestleMania? Like, like, they haven't, it's hard to do that. It was bad enough when they did it with Hogan and Warrior. And I think they learned, even all those years ago, that it's really hard to do that. Like, you have to have a perfect set of circumstances for that to make any sense. And with Hogan and Warrior, I mean, that's a match that I'll never forget as a kid watching, just because it was like I didn't know who to be happy for, right? Like, I didn't know who to root for. Like, at the time, it was like, I don't want Hulk Hogan to lose, but it's like, but I love the Ultimate Warrior too, right? So we knew somebody, and I'm thinking, like, Cody's wearing black. Like, like, he occasionally wears black, but he often doesn't wear a all black suit like that, right? Like, with the vest and everything. And I'm thinking, like, is this foreshadow? Like, I'm trying to figure out how they're doing this. What are they doing? And then Cena hugs him, and they perfectly go to that camera angle of his face looking at The Rock, and his facial expressions couldn't have been any better.
It just
I didn't even know Cena had that in that. You're right. Like, I didn't even know he had that in him. But then again, like, he's been acting for how long now? Like, I should have known. But, and that face, and it was like, and you could tell in the arena, the minute they showed that face on the screens in the arena, the whole crowd went, like, it was just like a gasp. And then you see The Rock with that very weird thing he did, but whatever, he did it. And you were like, holy shit. And now, not to mention, we were still cheering the fact that Cody had just said, go fuck yourself, and they didn't bleep it.
Yeah.
Right? We're going nuts over the fact that they allowed that to happen, which was another part of the perfect right.
Yeah. That we have the tumor of 10-year-old boys still. Yeah.
Well, that too. And the fact that was part of the perfectness of the swerve, because they brought you on this crazy emotional roller coaster, as they know how to do. And we're loving it, because not only is Cody telling The Rock to go F himself, but we heard it, which we never hear. And it was like, oh shit, and like, we're going nuts. And then all of a sudden we look at we look at what's happening, and we see the face, and we're like dead silent. All of a sudden we're like, oh my God, this is happening. And then it happened. And then they went on for another 10 minutes beating the crap out of them. Yeah. Also, did I read from Sean Ross Sapp that it's believed that Travis Scott blew out Cody's eardrum?
Yep.
I mean, I that's crazy, but I guess if you got to make it look real and you're not trained, you just got to go ahead and slap the shit out of them. But anyway, that was just crazy.
Well, and they talked about it too, right? So like they showed it when like The Rock did this, right? Like that's what Cena
Well,
used to do.
he only did 2 though, so
No,
don't forget that.
no, he went like this.
Oh,
He
months
started like
ago.
yeah, but
Months ago.
yeah.
I thought you meant when he did the
Oh no, but like so like this, and then
yeah,
Cena, whenever he won, he was on top of the pole like this, and then
yeah,
I went back and I talked about it when Cody got beat in the parking lot by The Rock. We talked about, oh, you saw they had Austin on the truck, you saw they had
right.
Cena on the truck. Like we called that stuff out, but it seems like it didn't click to us on that. Like that was actually possible then, right?
Well,
Like
no, because we
we
thought that
noticed that stuff, but like we were just like, yeah, that would be cool, but let's be real, it's not happening, right? Like,
well, and we thought that was for last year's WrestleMania,
yeah,
which in theory was true
yeah,
because they brought him back to face Solo, right? They did the thing with him and Solo for a while, and then he shows up at WrestleMania to stop Solo from attacking Cody during the Bloodline Rules match or whatever they called it, and then we got The Rock and then we got Taker, but we thought that that was just foreshadowing WrestleMania. Now we've learned, and Rock basically can.
oh yeah, apologies for technical difficulties. Don't know what happened there. But like I was saying, yeah, like I went back to just our old podcast around this time and tried to pull this out of like what we actually noticed, and we were spot on with everything, Dan. But like it was funny a couple times, like you and myself kept saying, but just imagine if John did that, right? Or just imagine if they got Cena to do that. And I don't know if you saw the clip that Chris Van Vliet pulled out he from when he had Cena doing a press run. Cena was talking about how he was close in 2020 or sorry, in 2012 for Cena Rock 1 that Rock was going to be the face, Cena was going to go the bad guy. He went out and recorded a new disc record for uh for his entrance, and so that he had it out there. He went out there and got like brand new clothes and everything, brand new setup. Like he wasn't in the jorts anymore. So the question is, does John Cena still have that stuff on the back burner that he can pull out anytime now, right? Because, or does he just go? Does he change the trunks from blue to black, right? Does he just go the all black? That because we talked about that yesterday when we were at Raw in between the matches. But it is yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's something crazy, right? It's just I just can't believe they said
Yeah,
okay.
I think
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say I think he ends up not changing anything with his outfit. I
Just
think he stays doing it. You know, like he might change a little bit of mannerisms and all that, but I bet you he still ends up just as the colorful t-shirts and all that, just because, right? Like, you know, I think could be wrong.
well, and it's funny because I don't know if you caught that clip from Chris. Chris starts off the podcast by saying, "Just imagine if you have The Rock and the Cena both going heel at the same time." Well, Chris, 13 years later, here we are.
Here we are. Here we are.
So, yeah, it is. It's something, man. It is. I don't know. Like, I just. I'm just speechless, right? Like,
I am too. I think a lot of people are because it's like, even though we knew it could happen, we just didn't necessarily think it, expect it, or whatever we want to say. Like, we just thought, like, because, like, to go with what, like, LaGreco is saying, right? Like, of you waited until you have 10 months left.
yeah,
And a lot of people already, and we had this conversation 10 minutes after it happened. Is this really how he's finishing his career? Now, me, I think it's going to be easy to flip him back eventually. and before he ends, and he's going to go out on a high note. I could be wrong, but then again, I just tend to think that they're all it's going to take is after WrestleMania, he does a few things, and all he has to do is turn on a bad guy, and it'll be boom. Like, or they do a story where somebody gets to him and makes him understand, that what he was doing was wrong. Um,
Um, when do you think
it's going to be wild,
yeah.
though.
So just to tie into what we witnessed last night at Raw, we'll talk about that shortly. But when do you think we get Cena Punk?
Well, it's interesting because with the promo that Punk did last night, it was like, Jesus, like we could get this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and obviously we know where we're going to WrestleMania, but you've got a month ish, a little longer, right? It's middle of April this year, or is it still beginning of April?
What, for Mania?
WrestleMania.
Wasn't it
I should know this, but I don't.
Wasn't it the 19th and 20th? Yeah.
19th and 20th. Yeah. So you still have a month and a half to go, and there's a lot of space to fill, and obviously, a lot of it's just going to be promos, because now, and especially now that Cena has a new character to promo with. But you could get a Cody Cena. We talked about this. They don't have a pay-per-view or PLE, excuse me. They don't have a PLE that's coming up before WrestleMania. This was it for the main rosters until WrestleMania, which is fine. But they have plenty of stuff going on. I mean, they're giving us Seth and Punk in a
cage match,
in a steel cage next week. So, you could see it before WrestleMania.
You think we get the blue cage?
Oh, in the Garden? No, I don't.
Just a regular.
I think they would have already. Yeah, I think they would have already said something.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we might get it before Mania, just as as something they do. Because now we for a minute last night I was sitting here going, oh, it's going to be Punk and Seth at Mania, but now I'm not sure if I think that anymore because they're already giving us them in a cage match. So there's a part of me that wonders if it's not. Plus, they let Punk do that promo. My first thought last night, I think I said to you, I turned to you right there in the arena and said, are we getting Punk Rock at WrestleMania? Like, what are we doing here? Like, because he went right for the Rock, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so technically Cena, they said on Raw, is going to be Monday, March 17th in Brussels, Belgium, 24th in Glasgow, Scotland, and 31st in London, England. So those 3 weeks he will be on the Europe tour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't know. Like, what do you think we see on those shows? Like, do you think we get Punk chasing? Obviously, Punk. So Punk has the cage match. What, the 11th? Is it? No, the 10th. Right.
Yeah.
That'll be the next 10th. Raw. The 10th. Yeah. So Punk has the tag match, the cage match on the 10th, which means the following week Cena's back. What do you think we get? Like, does Cena come out right away, start the show, and Punk just chase him down?
No, I don't think that right away. I think they let him promo in character for a little bit, right? Like,
like as the bad guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think whether or not it be this is why I did it promo, and he talks about, probably ends up talking negatively about fans or why, there's going to be an explanation promo, I think. And just to continue to get him more heat, right? Um,
Yeah, so
I don't know
yeah.
that it gets physical. I'm not sure that they have him get physical with anyone for a week or two at least. I think it's more of we want to build up this character, and if you send Punk or anyone, if you send them right down the ring to interrupt them, you don't build the heel more, right? So you need to let it breathe and build it a little bit, I think.
I agree, and I think. Do you think that's why the rumors out there that Punk has been quietly pulled from the WWE European tapings? So, because
I
two,
didn't hear that rumor, but
so
um,
a few weeks ago, WWE UK announced Punk's return to the UK. The second city state was confirmed to appear on March 24th, Raw in Glasgow, and the following week, Raw in London on March 31st. However, it seems plans have now changed. The tweet that announced the news has since been deleted, in a recent post of WWE UK Instagram promoting Punk for the upcoming tour dates does not list either show. Punk is also absent from the event pages for Glasgow and London tapings on WWE's website. Instead, Punk is now being advertised for the 17th Raw in Brussels, Belgium, and the 21st SmackDown in Italy, and the 28th SmackDown in London. So he's doing both shows while on the tours, then basically. He started off with Raw and he's finishing with SmackDown.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Right? Like, so, like, is that their way of just, like you said, quietly just keeping them apart?
Yeah. I mean, to a degree, yeah. I mean, they could be. But also, like, I would assume we're not done with him and Seth, even after next week.
Well, then they said it's the final
Um,
time.
who said that?
Uh, Adam Pearce? One last time.
Well, I heard him say finish it, but I mean, he
Yeah,
said that about.
no, he went like this. Finish it! Like,
Yeah,
like he
yeah.
was like Sub-Zero
But
or something.
he said that about him and Drew too, and it took until he
Okay,
got to Hell in
okay,
a Cell.
okay. All right, then. Well, okay. I forgot you're the guy that everybody calls when they want the party to be pissed on. I'm sorry. I didn't know what was going on here. My bad.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think this is the end of it,
Okay.
right?
I think we'll get an encounter after the cage match, but I don't think it will be physical. But then I think you see Seth step away for a little bit. Because I think we're getting into a part that everything Seth's involved in, like when he comes out and he talks to Cody, it's almost like it's getting kind of murky with, like, why is Seth really out there, right? Um, but then that's what I was gonna bring up to you. If we do end up getting a tag match at Mania because of what happened at the Chamber, who are your likely tag partners, top two for Cody, if we're getting Rock and Cena?
But if we're getting Rock and Cena, I think the only one that makes sense is Austin.
See, I think Punk gets in that. Because then Punk can say, I helped you out against them down the line, so you owe me. And he still has his favor. I do believe the Austin thing because Austin keeps popping up that he's going to be in Vegas. And if he needs help.
Yeah.
But then do we get Taker again?
No. I think he's done.
I hope so
Like
because
he's done with matches. He's pretty much already said that. He's done with matches. Will he do some pop-ups and a couple of choke slams here and there? Yes, but he won't do it in full character, right? and he won't do it. And he's fulfilled now. He said that after last WrestleMania that he got his closure that he really was kind of seeking. But he knows, he not only did he break kayfabe finally, he left kayfabe, in the dust.
But he hates
So
when
he won't
other
go
people
back.
do it. Yeah.
Well, he won't go back. Is his point? He's ruined it.
Well, yeah, and
Which was
I think it's great that he's not gonna go back. Because have you seen him try and get out of that chair for his podcast? It's struggling, man. Like his hips, like you know what I mean. Like all the
yeah,
damage he's taken over the years. Like, like thankful that we had him, but like you could see the toll, right? Like, and I'm sure it takes away some aspects of his life, but
and he knows. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Punk could work too, especially since he did what he did with this angle. But I also like, are we just repeating last year's WrestleMania storyline? We're gonna do a tag match the night before, and then have a championship match the next night. Like, I don't necessarily know if I need to see that again. That kind of setup. It's like you already did that. You
was
know,
thinking that we might get Cody dropping the title on the first night, and then Cody Rock on the second night.
that'd be interesting.
Because I'm trying to think, right? Because like, we technically make to make an actual good thought on what's gonna happen at Mania. We technically need to hear from The Rock again, and we technically need to hear from Cena, right? It's like we technically need to see what stipulations The Rock's gonna put in place, right? Because that was the whole point of this. Like, if Cody agreed to give him his soul, The Rock was gonna make Cody his champion, right? So now The Rock has to make Cena his champion. So what stipulations are we gonna see, right? Like, is Cody gonna be on like when they used to do this on Raw in the '90s all the time, right? The champion, the champion that Vince wanted to get beat would be on like a 2-on-1 like handicap match, right? And then like the
Yeah.
champion would have to get through that. But then that's the thing too. Punk brought up in his promo last night. Baby, I'll use that favor that Paul owes me.
Yeah.
So then, does Cody lose the title prior to Mania? And Punk's favor is Punk Cena for the title at Mania, and that gets
No.
the title back to the good guys, and then it gets Punk his. That's the thing, like, right? Like it's all up in the air right now. Like it's wild.
I don't think that's up in the air at all. I think Cena Cody is happening. I don't think that's in the air at all. I don't think Cody drops in the next month and a half. I don't think there's any chance of it. I mean, I know I would have said that if you asked me about Rhea Ripley last week, but this is like even more cemented than anything to me. Especially with the John turn, you know.
Yeah, we'll see, man. There's gonna be some stipulations on like how Rock gets Cena to be his champion, right? Like there's gonna be some things that we hear along the way that are gonna have to be discussed. That's for sure. Um,
Yeah, I don't disagree on that. I just don't think they're going to change that title ahead of time. I think it's going to stay Cody for sure. I do think Cody's going to drop it, but at Mania.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Interesting. A lot going on. Well, a lot going on behind the stage that we have no idea yet of what it's actually gonna be. And to be honest, like, um, what was I gonna say? To be honest, it's even though like we can't make an educated guess right now because I think we need board to build the guess. I bet you they've already showed it to us and we just haven't paid attention, right? Like of like who's gonna be
I
involved,
know.
right? Like that's the thing. Like so, I'm gonna be
Well,
feel so
that's why a
dumb
lot of
sitting
people
there.
think it's Austin because we've had those hints.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was on the other side of the bus.
He was on the other side of the bus. Um, there's also this this theory going around that, The Rock obviously was doing Cena's thing, but last night or Saturday night he did this and used two fingers. So is there one more person to come? Is there a one coming, right? Like, and if there is, who is it? Could it be Roman? Could they be rejoining? Roman's been out of the picture, right? Like he's kind of, what's going on there. Solo and Jacob's doing his thing. Solo's back, but not really doing anything. Like, is the bloodline slowly reforming, you know, as more of a faction again and not just kind of whatever it was. Like Jay's off doing his thing and Jacob's off doing his thing, but is The Rock slowly going to put it back together with Roman? And then eventually you get that turn and we can get to Rock Roman maybe in a year, but um or even Survivor Series. Um I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy. Um it's crazy to think about. But yes, I agree with you. There are probably hints and Easter eggs that we've missed that are extremely subtle and maybe go back even further than we're thinking, and yet to be disclosed what those are.
Yeah. If they get the bloodline back, I don't see them using Solo. I feel like Solo's the guy out because he's failed so many times. I see The Rock.
No, I think it's Roman. I think it's Roman if you're doing that.
I
For
think
sure.
The Rock's promoting Jacob, and then they're bringing the other ones that they have along the way up. Because Jacob's been so hot that I could see them using this opportunity is making Jacob the main bald boss or the main mob boss guy, and then using the other ones you have waiting in the wings at OVW and that have been training at NXT, because they don't really, they can run out, get involved, catch Cody and whoever else is involved by surprise, pound them, boom. They don't gotta take any bumps. They could just be used as muscle, right? So it could just be the start of Bloodline 3.0 if you put Jacob in charge. I think Roman doesn't go back there because I think Paul's eventually going to turn on Roman. So I'm wondering if Paul's one of the guys as well that Rock uses.
That could be.
Right?
I
So
can see that too.
so then that starts pushing Roman back as not that he wasn't a face, but like more of a like more genuine of a face if Paul flip flops at him, right? But holy hell, could you imagine Cody walks out there and all of a sudden Paul flips on Roman, and then you hear Brock's music hit. So then you get Roman as a Paul Heyman guy, you get Brock as a Paul Heyman guy, and then Cult of Personality starts playing. So Cody has the whole Paul Heyman guy arsenal behind him, backing him up. That
Yeah.
that would be every like every Paul Heyman fanboy's dream, right? Is just to see those three guys somehow aligned. Do I think it will happen? No, but then we didn't think that the Cena thing would happen. So yeah, I mean it's wild, man. And to bring up a point you mentioned earlier, remember when Cody showed up in AEW with the black hair, the red shirt, and the black suit?
Black hair in AEW. I don't remember him having black hair in AEW.
I
Wonder why.
I think it was here. Let me. I just said it in chat.
That was AEW?
That's what
Oh
it
yeah,
says.
there is an AEW mic right behind it.
So when Cody walked in the all black suit, that's the first thing I thought of. is that right there.
Huh. I don't remember this at all. Post tattoo too.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I thought of when I saw Cody in the all black.
According to this, in an interview, he said that he chose to make his return to AEW with black hair prior to winning back the TNT Championship from Brody Lee, revealing that it was a reference to the classic Death of Superman comic. He would later admit that it was a poor reference as nobody got it.
He's such a nerd like us, man. He really is. He's such a nerd.
That's interesting. It was just something new. Huh. Anyway, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I guess he didn't.
Yeah. So, let's jump to Raw then. Let's jump to our first Netflix Raw in Buffalo ever. We were there.
Yeah.
We were there, Dan. Let me run through the card real quick here. Well, first of all, like you said, we started off with the CM Punk promo, showing up in his Jeep Wagoneer. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Because I hate when The Rock does that.
He does it too much. It was good the first time he did it because it was a big deal. He was back. It looked legit. It looked real. I mean, goosebumps are real. It's hard to fake those, and it looked kind of cool. Yeah. Now he does it every time, and it's like now it's stupid because you do it every time. You know, like it's just part of your entrance now. But anyway, it was hilarious when Punk made and slap your stupid arm with your stupid goosebumps. I was like, wow. Can I say though, the one thing that the only bad thing about going to a show is sometimes it's hard to hear what the hell the guys are saying because obviously you're dealing with crowd noise over a mic, you know. So half the time I was like, I'm only catching half the words he's saying, so I think I know what his promo is, but
yeah, right. Because has that been the loudest Buffalo crowd that you've ever been in? I feel like that's the loudest Buffalo crowd I've had that I've been in.
It might have been, but I was there for a SmackDown years and years. I think it was SmackDown or Raw, years and years ago when Goldberg and Brock were going at it. I was there. Yep. They did a thing in each corner of the ring, and they had a line of security, and of course it didn't matter. It was pretty loud that night too. Yeah, but that was.
They started off with the security in between them in the ring, right, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for that.
Oh yeah, so was I. So, it was pretty loud that night too, with everything going on. But if it was definitely, I mean, that crowd was crazy for Punk last night. The CM Punk chants were super loud, super loud.
Yeah. From what
certainly louder than when we went to Forbidden Door in Toronto.
Yeah. Yes.
Except for Bryan Danielson's entrance, that was pretty loud for him with the final countdown. But other than that, it wasn't as loud as last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. From what you heard of the promo, good, bad, just some funny one-liners.
Great.
Agreed.
No, I thought it was great. I mean, the whole thing was good. Like, pissed off Punk is always good.
Yeah, it's always gonna be good.
And when he obviously has the freedom to say, what he wants to say, and he's going to go down the road he went down with calling Rock and Cena bald frauds, and making fun of the Rock's goosebump thing, and talking about walking around with a fake title, which I did see a lot on the internet today about him walking around with an AEW belt with a black X through it. But um very, very good stuff. And then the one thing I'll say with the him and Seth thing, and the letting them, continuously find each other to start pummeling each other 4 or 5, 6 times that they did. I thought that was done really well because it just added to this story, because this story has been going on a long time with the two of them. So they run the risk of this getting a little old, which we talked about this with him and Drew. They run the risk of this getting a little old with him and Drew. But last night, when it wasn't just hey, we're gonna meet in the aisle, we're gonna beat each other for a few minutes, and then security's gonna break us up, and that's it. They let them break through security like 8 times, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was like 8 times in the end. And the crowd just re-energized every single time. They let them do it. It was great. It was like a hockey fight on steroids 10 times. Like, it was just great. So, I think that was well done too. And that was the first 23 minutes of the show, I think we said.
Close to 20 bits, between 20 and 25, I would say. Because the first time they split them up was at 15, it was like 13:50 mark that I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Except, like you said, pissed off Punk is always good. So was it Gunther and Otis right after that? It was, wasn't it? Because I know we had the speed in the main event match to start as the dark matches at 7:30, right? And then 8 o'clock hit. We got live. We got Punk right away. Showed up in the Wagoneer. The arena was actually shaking for Jey Uso.
Yes.
It was physically shaking.
Yes, it was.
Like, there's not like, and I had a small.
I've never felt that arena shake either.
Yeah.
Now that I remember saying that to you right away too. I'm like, our section is actually like the floor under us is shaking, and I mean, we've been there with crowds going nuts for sporting events, and it's never shook like that.
Yeah, and I had a theory going into this that there might have been a little bit of like piped in Jey music when you see these crowds, but like actually being there to witness it, there's nothing piped in. It's as soon as Jey's music hits, everybody's on their feet, and it's yeah. It's wild, way. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like, right, I couldn't believe it. And it was also kind of cool to see Netflix throw in the drone after that, right? Like, they had a drone come flying around after.
So yeah, which it took me forever to catch the drone, because you could see that there was clearly a drone on the video, but then I was like, where is it? Because it looks like it's right near us, and then tiny little thing.
Yeah.
Tiny little thing.
And then Lyra Valkyrie and Ivy Nile for the women's IC championship. I thought this was pretty physical. I thought if there is going to be a title that drops, I thought that Ivy Nile would be walking away with this title tonight. And then we got Ludwig coming out, basically talking smack that he beat Penta and he beat Pete Dunne the other night, and that he needs to deserve more respect from what he's able to do in the ring and so on and so on. Your typical teal type promo. Buffalo really hated him. Like really hated him.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so you could see he's put in the work that his character would really get it. And then we got Penta, which I was pumped about. I was hoping that we would get Penta. First time seeing Penta in person, so that was kind of cool. Wasn't a match. He just came out, beat on Ludwig a bit, right, and then that was the end of it. Um, but it was still cool. It was still cool to see Penta get up and over that top rope too. He cleared it, so that was good. So it'll be interesting to see where Ludwig and Penta go from there. Do you think we get them at the Madison Square Garden show on the 10th?
Yeah, maybe. Probably. They're probably going to do a lot for that show.
Mm-hmm. That's well, yeah, well, because they already pulled out a cage match for that show. That's huge. Like anytime you're pulling out a cage match.
Yeah.
And then we saw Braun Breaker. Well, just to go back a little bit, we had A-Town Down Under basically get back at Jay, and call Josh Allen a choke artist. So Madison Square Garden card, we're getting Jay versus Grayson Waller. So that's going to be interesting to see where that fits on the card. If you're WWE, do you start the card with that match?
With Jay, I mean, only if you want to do the entrance with him through the crowd. Like, if you know, they didn't do it this
right?
week. Yeah.
You
Maybe logistically, I'm not sure how easy it is in the Garden. That's always the problem. Is the Garden is a logistical nightmare for them.
Yeah.
I mean, sure they could figure it out, but it might not be as like dynamic, which is maybe part of the reason they didn't. You know, they weren't doing it yesterday either. Like smaller arena, Madison Square Garden, for all of its historical value, is not that big in the end.
Yeah.
So, you know, and not easy to maneuver around. So they might also just go hard with Punk and Seth just to start the night. Get it going real quick.
Cage match to start the night?
Yeah. They do weird stuff like that sometimes, right? Like they just throw out these matches first. And I mean, right? I mean, I know it was the first ever Netflix show, but the first ever Netflix show was the Tribal Combat with Roman and Solo.
Yeah.
So I could see it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. That's interesting. And then throughout we had Braun Breaker basically dealing with the Judgment Day again. Buffalo was behind Braun.
They were barking.
Yeah,
they were barking a lot.
They were big fans of Braun, so that was cool to see. Poor Carlito, he's coming back just to get beat up every week.
I know
that spear from Braun doesn't look easy to take. Like when you get the spear from Roman, he kind of like wraps his outside hand around you. So like he like almost catches you. Braun just looks like he shot out of a rocket and he's hitting anything in sight. He doesn't care. He's not catching, like he's going through you. So it looks like we're gonna get a continuation of that. Did they say we're getting Finn and Braun at the Madison Square Garden show, or is Finn just like chasing him down? Right? They didn't announce that for that.
Yeah, I don't think they announced it. No.
Okay, I didn't think so either. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Yeah, because so far for that match, or sorry, for that card, there's been 3. We have Jey Uso versus Grayson baller. I forgot about this. We got the New Day versus the LWO because we'd had that promo from Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio. That at the end of it, they got the crowd to start the New Day sucks chant. And then we got Seth versus Punk in the steel cage. So those are the three we have for sure as of right now.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then the final match for Raw was the main event match, which was another swerve of all swerves, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley dropping the belt.
Another result that just has your poor 63-year-old father in shambles. This has been the worst weekend of wrestling for him and maybe ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, to be honest, we didn't even talk about this when we talked about Chamber, but this popped in my head. I thought we were going to get something from Jade tonight, or Jade last night on Raw, but we didn't get anything. She comes back, she beats up Naomi, and then all of a sudden she's gone again. But technically, are they on SmackDown or are they on Raw?
I think they're on SmackDown.
Okay, so then Friday we should probably hear something, you would think?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. Yeah, because I thought that was weird. I just wanted to hear something from Jade, even if it was like a video promo or something. But yeah, I mean, so what's your thoughts on what's going on now with Rhea? What do you think this is for?
I don't know. I mean, I was shocked. I really was shocked. So I mean, I guess the only thing that, we talked about it a little bit. The only thing I think is that Charlotte's going to win, and she's going to go after Charlotte.
Yeah, but did you see? There's something floating around too that Rhea dropping opens the door somehow for Becky to come back, and then it being a triple threat at Mania of Becky, Bianca, and Io. But I don't really see how it opens up the door. Like, I don't understand how. I don't know. Like, I don't understand how it opens up the door for Becky, I guess, with Rhea dropping.
Yeah, I don't know.
So. But yeah, and to add salt to the wound of all this, Io Sky is still undefeated against Rhea Ripley, Dan. She's never beaten her.
You know, 3-0. 3-0 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's never beaten her. Rhea had some comments for Colin on Fightful as she was asked about losing the title. Obviously, she's not happy and she was going off. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I was trying to piece this together, like what the thought is. But to be honest, it's another one I'm sitting here going, yeah, I don't see what's happening. Right? Like, I just don't see it. So, interesting card. How was your first Netflix experience, Dan? What did you think about the show? Like, did you notice anything different?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think I noticed anything all that different. In general, like obviously, there's a little bit of production that's a little bit different. The drone being the biggest thing for us, being in there, maybe a little bit of the, maybe a little bit, of the pyro and stuff like that, but not too much different. Generally speaking, though, no, I didn't think there was much all that different in a live setting.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it went faster than the past WWE shows we've been at. So I don't know if that's a Netflix game thing or it's just the structure that they've implemented with this show. But either way, it was cool, right? Like we were at the first one in Buffalo. So hopefully they'll have another one come back around the fall time and we can hit that up. And they're going to be in Pittsburgh in June. So I have always wanted to see a wrestling show in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I might have some time off coming up, Dan. So
Might. Might.
so we shall see. But yeah, I guess anything else you feel like we forgot to talk about or you wanted to bring up?
No, I don't think so in general. I mean, it's been a crazy 3 days,
Yeah.
4 days of
Yeah.
wrestling. It's been a lot to take in. It's been a lot to figure out. I was trying to explain it to a non-wrestling fan who just has a peripheral knowledge of what goes on in wrestling, trying to tell him a little bit about why it was such a big deal. But I also was seeing this thing about this article about how John Cena's heel turn made people who don't watch wrestling go back and watch because they like, even though they don't watch wrestling, they know who John Cena is. They know he's the ultimate good guy, and they had to go and see what happened. And now they might be interested. So kudos to WWE for potentially adding a ton more, fans, because of this. Which, you know, this is what the NWO did too, right? Like it brought in a bunch of people that either had lost their fandom in wrestling or weren't really wrestling fans, but now had to see what was happening. And what do you mean Hulk Hogan's not a good guy anymore? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it. Well, like I even asked you when we were sitting through the advertisements that it was actually talked about on Shannon Sharp's podcast. Like that caught me off guard. So like,
oh, I mean, yeah, it was all over, right? Like it crossed over a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. Um, yeah, they're obviously well. That's a good point because that brought up something I wanted to run by you real quick. So from time to time, we like to check in what WrestleNomics, as Brendan does. He does these comparisons, right, for the month, the current month to the month of the year prior. So listen to this. AEW on 2/11 in Cedar Park, Texas for Dynamite. 2,828 people, down 13% from 3,246 on 2/14/24. Okay? 2/19/25 in Phoenix, Arizona for Dynamite. 29:33, down from 52:48. So you have a negative 13% drop and a 44% drop. WWE, February 1st in Indianapolis. It's a pay-per-view, obviously. Up 421%. Up 32% in Cleveland, Ohio for Raw. From 12,648 up from 9,552. Down 28% in Memphis for SmackDown on February 7th from the current month being 8,901, down from 12,435. Up 17% in Nashville for Raw, 12,356. With it being 10,521. They had a negative 7% drop on February 14th in DC. They were 12,789, down from 13,707. So not terrible drop. And then their biggest drop, down 30%. February 28th, Toronto, Ontario SmackDown, 11,905 people from 9,080 people. So Brendan likes to do these same market, same event type comparisons. That's why he's calling it out if it's a Raw SmackDown pay-per-view, right? He's trying to show you across the board just what shows tend to be bigger, how pay-per-views tend to draw better, and so on and so on. I think I already know what you're going to say to this, but are you surprised by the drop in the AEW percentages?
No.
Yep, so then I know exactly what you were going to say. All right.
Yeah. No.
I just find that 44% drop to be very alarming. Like you're going to get a 13% drop here or there, right? You're almost having a 50% drop at a show. Like that should be very alarming. Especially with everybody that's asking for their release or that's getting paid to stay home, right? Like what's going on? So yeah, it's interesting. Join the Patreon for WrestleDomics if you find this stuff interesting. I know we do. That's why we continue to log into Patreon and view this all. But I don't know, man. I don't know. And obviously the other big AEW news, Rey Fenix is a free agent, and then I saw today expected to sign with WWE as we expected, so that'll be cool. And to all the people that have been giving Jamie Hayter shit about where she's been, because she hasn't wrestled since January 22, which she wrestled on February 7th, the Eve show in London, which marked her first indie date since 2022, and only her second since signing with AEW. She's in the process of getting her visa renewed, which, with everything going on now, who knows how long that's going to take. She may never get the visa renewed now, Dan. So...
No.
You know what I mean? So, but she is in the process of taking UK bookings as of late. But, I mean, let's not... And for all those that have been tweeting at her or messaging her and saying that you quit on AEW, no, she's just trying to get her visa fixed, bro. Leave her alone. So yeah, that's just a few tie points I've noticed from Patreon. And the fact that I probably subscribe to way too many wrestling things on Patreon. But there is one thing I wanted to discuss with you, Dan, since you are my attorney.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, I didn't really like that. That seemed kind of crazy.
Just saying.
Let me see if I can find this now. So, Ringside News basically has this titled as "Insane Lawsuit Filed Against WWE, UFC, and The Rock Allegations Include Conspiracy and Medical Experimentation." A lawsuit has been filed against WWE, UFC, TKO Holdings, and even The Rock, claiming everything from corruption, conspiracy, to unauthorized medical experimentation. Basically, an individual accuses these entities and several others of harassment, bribery, bribery, illegal medical testing, and even political corruption. This individual alleges WWE has a history of corruption, claiming that the company have paid off judges, prosecutors, lawmakers in Connecticut, New York, Florida, and Georgia. He argues that WWE sale to Endeavor and its merger with UFC into TKO was orchestrated to circumvent liability laws in the Atlantic states. And he further claims that WWE and UFC executives have harassed, stalked, and threatened him, alleging that a black market exists within both companies for drug distribution, political fundraising, and exploitation. But here's where it gets weird, Dan. This individual says they were subject to a virtual medical pet and simulator and an anthropomorphic test devices, which allegedly caused him seizures, convulsion, and pain. What type of alien experiments are going on here, Dan?
I don't know. I mean, this is always the tough thing because, you can sue for whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? And you can say whatever you want.
Yep.
And it's very hard to get in trouble for suing for something that ends up not being true. Because all you really have to be able to prove is that you felt it was true. And while you may not win the lawsuit, you're not going to get in trouble for having started the lawsuit. So it's like, I have no idea if this is true or not. Right. Like, and it's like crazy.
Yeah. And
I don't even know.
Right.
I mean, but I've seen this kind of stuff before in the court space in my career, and it just like some of it's just tough because like I don't know how you prove it. I don't know how you disprove it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I've never even heard of this guy. So I don't even know where this guy comes from.
Right. I mean, I once dealt with a person who was suing the town that they lived in, saying that the town was spying on them through their television, and really believed that, right? Like this wasn't like just saying it to say it. Truly believed that they were tapping the phone, that they had some sort of device that was monitoring them through their television, and sued over it, and didn't win their lawsuit, but not because they disproved that they not because the town proved that they weren't doing it, was that they couldn't prove that they were doing it. The couple that sued couldn't prove that they were. It was just a belief they had.
Yeah.
I mean, looking through this too, right? Like Soto even claims that female employees use gas, chromatography, mass spectrometry technology to release foul smells in his presence to cause him stress and embarrassment.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like some North Korea type spy stuff.
And also, is that also just like a very fancy way of they used a fart spray around him? Like,
well, and does he live in his mom's basement? Because can we smell it himself? We smelled a couple. So,
I mean, it's just kind of crazy, and obviously there's no documentation or evidence currently supporting the claims, but that doesn't come until later into a lawsuit anyway. I don't know, like, it's tough because I take this stance, but at the same time, I don't give the benefit of the doubt to Vince McMahon. But there's a lot more that was released about Vince McMahon than there is in this lawsuit. This is just a guy saying this is what they did, but I don't know. It's crazy. The thing is, it might be too crazy for it to pick up any traction because it's just out there.
Yeah.
This is just out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just found this weird, and since you're the only attorney I can afford. So, yeah, I know I'm going to jail.
which is saying something since I'm not an attorney.
Yeah, you're telling me. Man can't even find a good attorney anymore. But so far, I've seen this on 6 different sites, 6 different wrestling sites.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's a legit lawsuit. It's out there for public consumption. I mean,
12 pages.
with the exception of some like stuff about children and family matters, lawsuits are public in this country.
Yeah.
So like, you might have to pay to get access to the system in some cases, but you can find all that stuff is unless it's been sealed by a judge, which is only for certain circumstances. It should be picked up by everyone that cares to download it and read it, but that's wild. It is wild.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird, man. Like, I just thought it was weird, but so just want to throw that out there. So just don't jump to the conclusions. Let's just see what actually happens with this, because this just seems wild and weird, as Dan said. But yeah, that's all I had for tonight. Dan, it's upon us as of Friday. WWE 2K25 releasing early.
Here we go again. Here we go again.
I cannot believe it. And we're getting a new story mode and the Bloodline Island. I mean, what a time to be a
Island
wrestling
of
fan.
relevancy.
What a time to be a wrestling fan, Dan, right? Like, what a goddamn time. So, until then, we'll either be back Monday or Tuesday night next week to discuss everything that occurred after this pod. So, NXT, AEW, if anything worthwhile occurs, and anything else that we may think of along the way. Next week, Dan, tell your assistant to write this down, Dan.
Okay.
We're doing trivia next week. Think of a pay-per-view that you want to do trivia on. The history of it, whatever you want to do. I think the titles one that we looked at of like what the actually heavyweight champions are, that'll be kind of easy because we can bang out the 2000s to current pretty easily. So I don't think that leaves us much resistance from when, say, 1960s or 70s to that. So, but yeah, think of what pay-per-view you want to do. Pick your favorite one. Let's do the history of it, and we'll go from there. But until then, please like, comment, subscribe. Go get WWE 2K25. And also, WWE will be coming out with their own podcast. But please, this one's always going to be better. So until then, like, comment, subscribe. Talk to you folks next week. Adios.